Happy New Year from two guys and a chainsaw. I'm Todd.
And I'm Craig.
2024. I don't know if it's going to get any better than 2023, honestly. I'm going to try to remain hopeful and positive, but holy crap, we have had a few interesting years these last few years, and I feel like the future is a big unknown. So I'm entering 2024 with a bit of trepidation, but always hopeful. The world constantly surprises me. I'm just hoping that someday soon it'll start surprising me in the right direction instead of the wrong direction.
I'm going to be optimistic and say I think 2024 is going to be great. 2023 was better than the years before. Like,
for you.
I mean, we went through that stupid pandemic. And I don't mean to downplay it. I just mean it sucked. We went through that pandemic and we've come out of it. And I know things aren't perfect, but I really think things are getting better, and I think they're gonna keep getting better.
Well, I
have to be optimistic.
I sure hope so. I mean, if you live in the Middle East right now, 2023 has been a bit of a nightmare.
Oh, I know.
So
it's terrible.
Yeah, but hopefully we can only go up from here.
And God willing, I have no idea how that conflict is going to be resolved, but I certainly hope it is somehow, because it's terrible. Well, what a fun way to start out our New Year's
Right,
podcast.
I know. I feel a little guilty for saying that, but, you know, it is a new year. It's time for reflection. It's time for looking ahead as well as looking back. And
that's true.
And this year, we always try to do a New Year's themed podcast. There are even fewer New Year's themed horror movies than there are Easter themed horror movies, I think.
I'm not sure how we missed this one until you brought it to my attention this year, and it came to my attention when you posted it as a choice on a poll on our Patreon page. Like, I had never heard of it before that,
right?
But it came out in 2020. Maybe because it's foreign? Did it come out in the States in 2020?
Well, I mean,
it's a Netflix production, so presumably it did.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a Netflix production. I'm sure, just like they do with all their foreign films, is they put it on and you know, for everybody. I mean, not all their foreign films, but the ones that they produce, they seem to have maybe I'm giving Netflix too much credit, but I know that they're big on data, you know, and the productions that they produce themselves and put money into are very much geared towards data and what they think their users are. I think I see a trend where they're trying to get foreign films that are going to have a wide appeal across borders. And so I sort of have this feeling that this film was funded with even though it's Polish, was funded with the intent that they could throw it up in a lot of different markets. And I don't think that's wrong. I think this film, it's not distinctly Polish. I mean,
no.
It takes place in Poland. Obviously, they're speaking Polish. I'm sure there's some humor in here maybe I didn't get. There's a lot of humor in here I did get. I thought this was a very funny movie in many ways. Very dark comedy is what it turns out to be. But yeah, I thought this movie could have just as easily been produced in the U.S. in English, and it wouldn't have felt any different.
No, it felt very American, especially since the soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now I did read, after I watched the movie, I read reviews, and one of the reviews was titled, "Watch the Sub, Not the Dub." Which one did you watch?
I watched the sub.
Okay, I watched the dub because they said that if you watch it in the original Polish with the subtitles, the jokes are closer in translation as opposed to the dub, where I don't know how you Americanize a translation, but that's what they made it sound like. Now, again, I'm talking about a user review, so
I see.
I have no idea about the accuracy of that, but no, it felt very American to me. I was starting to say, especially since the soundtrack is largely like 70s and 80s rock.
Yeah.
Which I loved. It was great. It was fantastic. Like, I want to go, aside from all the dying, I want to go to that New Year's party. They were playing the most fun music, and people were dancing and super into it. It was awesome. Have we even said what movie we're watching?
It's called All My Friends Are Dead from 2020. We posed this to our patrons. We had a list of about I think I put up 3 or 4 movies, one of which was Schwarzenegger's End of Days, which I was sure would win.
I thought for sure, I was positive that was going to win.
But no, maybe it was the description, that kind of caught people's interest on this one. Basically, during a New Year's Eve party, a bunch of friends, a series of crazy events brings out secrets, breaks hearts, and leads to a shocking ending, which sounds like a lot of horror movies we've reviewed here. So I'll bet that one put it over the edge. Maybe that, or the fact that maybe a lot of people haven't seen it, were curious about it. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know either. But when I saw the title, it was familiar to me because I own a small illustrated book called All My Friends Are Dead. There's like a satirical book.
Yes, with a dinosaur on the cover, right?
Yes, the sad brontosaurus on the front. It says All My Friends Are Dead. And then the rest of them are like plays on that. Like, I don't remember. It's like a piece of bologna and it's like All My Friends Are Bread. And like a bunch. But it's really funny. And I thought that it was so funny that I had the cover. No, I didn't. My sister had the cover made into a T-shirt for me.
Oh, nice.
Because I just thought it was so funny.
Well, it is hilarious.
That sad brontosaurus, all my friends are dead. and I thought, surely this can't be a film adaptation of that book, and it's not.
No, it's not.
There's also a new movie in pre-production in America called All My Friends Are Dead.
Oh.
That when I read the description of it, it doesn't sound like it's connected to this movie at all, but it's a similar thing. It's like a group of friends all get together to go to a concert until they start getting picked off one by one. Okay, like you said, like every slasher movie ever. But it's they just cast JoJo Siwa in it.
Oh, really?
Was the only...
Who is that? I don't know.
Oh, my... she's a huge... teen pop star. Like, yeah, she's huge, especially with like tween girls.
Oh, well, I'm not a tween girl, to be fair, and I haven't been living in the U.S. for
I
years.
know, but that's it. You don't live in the U.S. If you lived in the U.S., you would know who JoJo Siwa was.
Oh, okay, so that sounds wupid. That's like me asking, like, oh, who's this Britney Spears I've been
okay. Kind of. I mean, she's not that big, but she definitely has a really, really like rabid fan base of tween girls. She started out as a little girl on the show Dance Moms. Do you know what that is?
I've heard of it, yeah.
She started out on that, and she's a very talented young lady. She's very talented. Now she's an adult, a young adult. She has come out as queer. She's still very successful. She did Dancing with the Stars and has done a whole bunch of stuff that's entirely irrelevant to this movie. So... in 2020, a movie came out called All My Friends Are Dead.
Thanks for keeping us on topic, Craig. I have to say, like, I was at first very intimidated by this movie because I could tell that we were going to have a lot of characters to keep track of.
Oh, my God.
Thankfully, I think the movie did a pretty good job of keeping things sorted. Like, people didn't look like each other. People were kind of in their different zones of the house for most of the time, and it was almost like they were interacting as clumps until they didn't anymore. So that doesn't really concern anybody but two guys who are trying to do a podcast and who need to take notes and remember everyone's names.
Right.
And the fact that these names are Polish, I don't know if did they Americanize the names?
Yes, they did. So we may be calling them.
Well, it would have been easy to do because, like, there's Olivia, which is like probably Olivia. There's Filip, which is Philip. Anastasia. I think probably half of our names come from Polish anyway. So
honestly, had I had more time, and I do, I'm on Christmas break from school. I have all the time in the world, but I'm just playing video games and sleeping.
Well, good for you. Why not? It's your break.
Right. I did have time. I wish I would have watched it again because watching it the first time in the first half hour, maybe even a little bit more, I was like, ugh. There's so many people.
Yeah.
And I'm frantically trying to, I'm glad that people probably don't understand how I watch these movies, because I only watch movies like this in podcasts. If I was for the podcast, if I was just watching this movie by myself, I don't care what their names are.
No,
who cares?
Of course.
That guy, whatever, who cares? But I know I'm going to have to talk about it later. So I'm like I'm desperate. Like I'm paying bird's eye attention, like somebody say his name, so I know who it is. And sometimes I have to put in like place fillers, like brunette, long hair girl, and then try to go back and fill it in when somebody finally does say their names. And so I was frustrated by that for like the first half hour. And once I got over that, and once I kind of, because ultimately you're right, they're really not all that hard to keep track of. There are a lot of them, but they're not all that hard to keep track of. So by the second half, I was far more into it.
Yeah.
I watched it in 2 sittings. Sat down and watched the first half, said to Alan, spoiler alert, it's a stupid movie.
Wow. Early judgment there.
And then I sat down the next day and watched the second half and said to him afterwards, I actually liked the second half. Like, I got into it. So I think if I were to watch it again, I might be able to just sit back and relax and enjoy it from beginning to end. Yeah.
Well, all those names and all those people, and it's kind of part of the appeal because it's a bit of a high concept, and I think it's very clever that it doesn't kick off with the party. The movie kicks off with a bit of a wraparound. Where in present day, it's New Year's Day. It's at a house after some crime, and there's a detective on the scene. I think his name was Gregor. Well,
who cares? It doesn't matter.
This was kind of funny. I thought what was great about this movie is it is very much a dark comedy. They took every opportunity to inject some humor in there, but not to the point where it was distracting or it was dumb. I actually think most of it was pretty fun and pretty clever.
Yeah.
This guy's new on the scene, and then the old grizzled detective, who's his new partner, comes up. They're going through the house together, and this house was the scene of a party for New Year's Eve, and every single person in there is dead.
Everybody. We're talking like 50 people.
The detective says double digits, something about double digits, and I was like, oh my God. And I think I read afterwards online or in the trivia, there's only 19, but that's a hell of a lot of bodies to have to explain.
It looks like, a lot. And it looks like more. Like, imagine a house party full of people and they're all just dead on the floor.
Yeah. And not just like somebody came in and gunned them all down either. There's somebody hanging. There's somebody tied up on a bed. There's like people like crashed on the piano. There's people. I mean, there's all these different methods of murder or death that have taken place in this house that it's great because you watch this and you're like, oh my goodness. So the story is we're going to unpack this. We're going to see how this all took place.
Right. And that's a great lead-in because you're like, what?
How did this happen? Exactly.
There's no way. What? Unless, like, that's the thing. Unless somebody came in with a machine gun, like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And there are all kinds of people. Most of them are teenagers or, I don't know, 20-something. Are they supposed to be 20-somethings?
I guess. Yeah, that's what I would think.
But there's one, like, older woman. And, the older detective, like, leans down and takes off her necklace and gives it to the younger detective. He's like, oh, yeah, evidence. And he's like, no, my wife's going to love this.
Yeah.
Silly little things. And then there was one thing that they're just looking around and it's inconsequential really, except for the fact that when they walk into one room, maybe it's where the pizza delivery guy is hanging, and you can tell he's in a uniform.
Mm-hmm.
The young cop sees it and barfs. I think this is before they've seen the room full of bodies.
Yeah.
This is the first body they come upon. It's in the bathroom, and he kneels down at the toilet and throws up. And the guy hands him some toilet paper, and he wipes his mouth with it and flushes it down the toilet. And then he's like, hey, wait, where'd you get that paper? I hope it wasn't important. And I'm like, well, obviously. Little things like that, like that's just briefly mentioned in the first, 3 minutes. By the time that it came back up in the last 3 minutes,
oh God,
I had forgotten about it.
There are payoffs for everything in here. Actually, I think this movie's very, very clever, and we'll talk about it later, because once you start thinking about it, there's some things inserted in here. There's some thematic elements and stuff that are interesting. Some things I had to kind of read about online afterwards because I wasn't absolutely certain and I needed some clarification on. But the writer-director, I don't know if it's Jan or Jan or something like that, Belchi, I don't even know how to pronounce these Polish names. There are no vowels, and it's all consonants smashed together. But it's like Jan Belzel or something like that, from Slovenia, moved to Warsaw in 2015. And he was a first-time writer-director, I think, on this one. He had just created a TV miniseries before this, which had 5 episodes. So he put a second movie together called Girls to Buy, which is after this one, which sounds like more of a drama about prostitutes. Doesn't have anything in the works, at least as far as IMDb goes. But I think this is a very great first feature for any up-and-coming director because the writing is smart. It's very, like you said, like the first half to 3/4 really of this movie is just shenanigans at a party. We've seen so many teen party movies, shenanigans happening, things like that. It's really hard maybe to keep that fresh and interesting. And there were moments early on in this movie where I thought I was going to get bored because I don't necessarily, when you sit down to watch a horror movie, you're not really that interested in in so much character development. It's so funny. Like we say these things back and forth. It's right. Too much character development, not enough character development. Right. In this case, after I'd seen the movie for about 20 minutes, I was like, you know what? This film has done an excellent job of developing these characters through funny dialogue, through witty and interesting interactions that I felt were not so cliche. You know, they were still kind of fresh.
They're relatively flat, but everybody at least has a distinctive
person
characteristic, and it's not just stereotypes. I mean, it is. Yes. There are stereotypes. What I was going to say before is I think the movie is incredibly well written because the relationships between the characters are intricate. It is a spider's web of relationships. And that's essential to the plot. Without this spider web of interlaced relationships, the plot wouldn't happen because it's a Rube Goldberg contrivance of a series of events that are dependent upon these relationships.
Yeah.
Like it's American Pie, basically, in that it's a bunch of teenagers, 20-somethings, humping and drinking and doing drugs and playing guitar and dancing and flirting and cheating and boyfriending and girlfriending and proposing. It's all of that American Pie type comedy stuff, but then through a series of events, they all start getting killed. But the other thing is that it's also more creative than our typical fare because it is not a slasher.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm racking my brain. Most of the deaths in this movie, keep in mind, we just told you, they all die.
Yeah.
Most of the deaths in this movie are by accident.
Yeah. At least it starts out that way. It becomes carelessness, accident, things like that. And it's funny because the one person who seems to take action to actually want to murder somebody in this movie ends up instead.
Oh, God. That's so crazy. Like,
We're just so smart. I loved it.
Well, it was crazy at the end. We're jumping ahead of ourselves. There's like this huge climax.
Oh, God.
Like this violent climax. But in the midst of it, there is also the raunchiest sex scene that we've seen yet. Like there has been sex, like so much sex happening throughout this whole movie, but for the most part everybody like has their clothes on.
Yeah.
which makes sense. You're at a party, like anybody could walk in at any time. You usually don't strip nude as you might in your home, but these folks in the end do, and damn.
They go at it.
That's the end, and I don't want to jump to the end. But at the same time, what can we do? There are 1,000 characters, and it is so heavily plotted.
Yeah.
I guess we should just kind of start with the inciting incident. Like, there's all these characters. They're mostly 20-somethings. They're in various stages of relationships. But this one girl who kind of seemed like she was going to be the main girl, she's the girl on the cover art. She's got, like, stickers on her face.
Yeah, like glitter. I think like this is a thing. Yeah, the little glittery cheek stuff. Mm-hmm.
And she's got a boyfriend, but there's this photographer guy, and she happens to see that he's been taking pictures of all night. She, gets her hands on his camera or whatever. So and her boyfriend's a douche, and so she starts flirting with him, and they end up in like a library or something. She's also like an astrologist, like she's very into like astrology and stuff, and she has this whole conversation about like stars aligning in the universe, everything happens for a reason, and
fate and star signs. She tries to guess I think its name is Philip, is the photographer's name. She tries to guess his star sign and then tell him all about himself, and she does, and she's startlingly accurate. And then he turns around, and this was clever too. Because I know this is all bullshit. Personally, I'm sorry if you believe it, but it's bullshit. Anyway, he turns around.
Okay, it's my turn now. Here, open your hand up for me. You have a palm and 5 fingers.
Wow.
Stop. Now, this hand belongs to someone who's stubborn. Also an air sign, and fiercely individual, but intensely loyal. Mm-hmm. You're very social, not very patient, and kind of intolerant. Oh.
What?
Here, on the lifeline, there's some kind of darkness, upheaval that impacted your life choices. And the X's right here, they say that you were hurt. A friend or lover betrayed your trust. You have Aquarius's sensual lips.
How did you know all that?
I'm psychic.
The age of Aquarius is the air sign fantasy, a blissful liberation of desire between Libra and Aquarius that knows no bounds.
I believe it.
Mm-hmm. It's too bad. In a parallel universe where we're both single, who knows what could happen?
I know.
Later on in the movie, they're in the midst of
chaos.
She's like, I told you all the stars were aligning. This was fated. This is going to happen. And he says, no, they're not. She's like, but you read me. You knew my stuff. He's like, it was bullshit. And he lists off all the ways that he basically did a cold reading on her. He's like, Aries, because Aries is the most, I just guessed Aries because that's like my mom's star sign. It's the only one I knew.
Oh my God.
And he's like,
you saying that out loud now connects to something else later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, it's so funny.
Yeah. And then like, he tells her, and then I just knew that most girls are like this and most people like this and like whatever it is. Like, I just guessed all that stuff. I don't know anything about you.
I feel like we're going to have to fly through all of this because there's so much. So anyway, she takes him off to like a library and she's flirting with him and like super, super flirting with him. Oh my God. I remember being in college. I remember being like that. Like,
I know, right?
being in those scenarios where like it's hypersexual and it's like, will we, won't we? I don't know. But anyway, like she finds a key to something and it turns out to be like to a gun safe or a gun box, something. She pulls out a gun and she's swinging it around, pointing at him, and he keeps saying, don't point it at me.
Like a dumbass.
These things, this is a dark comedy, so I'll allow it. But these things make me so uncomfortable because people honestly just don't understand how powerful guns are, and they're nothing to be messed with. Young people out there, if you're ever at a party and you're drunk and you find somebody's gun, don't touch it.
Don't touch it.
Leave it where it is.
Oh.
Don't even touch it. Leave it alone.
People have seen too many movies too, and they just swing guns around like it's nothing. Like, oh my God, a gun can go off and then someone is dead. It is just, you just don't play around with it. Definitely not like this girl is, and definitely not like the girls later are just like spinning it around their finger like they're cowboys in a movie. I was on the edge of my seat just because of that.
I know. Well, and I mean, like I said, it's a dark comedy. What we're talking about is ultimately what happens. Like he's going to show her how to shoot it, but instead, as he's like helping her aim with her other hand, she's reaching into his pants and jerking him off. And then they start banging on the desk, and she's just waving the gun around.
Yeah, she just got it over her head while she's laying down and just waving the gun around like, drop that thing. Well, don't drop it, actually.
No,
put it down.
Like, stop having sex, put the gun safely away, and resume. This is what we're talking about is exactly what happens. The host of the party hears them, and Merritt, whatever. He's this doofy looking. Well, I mean, he's a good looking guy, but he's supposed to be kind of a butthead, I guess.
A little bit. I don't know. I thought he came across like at first. I thought, okay, this is the butthead guy, but then he's a little charming, and then you're kind of thinking, maybe he's not that bad, But
no, we barely get to know him at all.
No, sadly,
he does stiff the pizza guy, which wasn't very nice. But he just peeks in because he hears somebody banging, and they get startled, and he slams the door, and she pulls the trigger and shoots him in the head. Blood splatters on the painting behind him, and he falls dead, and he's dead. And that sets off a series of events.
Right. But not quickly.
In which everyone dies. No, not necessarily. Now, I don't even understand now. What is this Philippe or whatever
thinking of?
Is like intent on hiding the body. So now it becomes a hide the body farce for about 10 minutes.
More than that, but yeah, I mean, it's 10 minutes because it keeps coming back. Like, this is the thing, like, the party stops for a minute because they hear a noise, and then they all start up again. So, like, we know that nobody really heard what was going on, nobody really cares. Right. Only this couple knows what happened, and even at first, she, and I think her name is Anastasia, at first doesn't realize he's dead, because Philip is like, oh, he's sleeping, haha, kind of drags him off. He's jokey Merrick or whatever. And she's not
I think
quite
she
sure.
knows. She knows it's the other girl, Olivia, who is Daniel. They're all like interrelated. This girl, Olivia, comes. She happens to be the sister of another character, Daniel, who is engaged, is proposing to Angelica. I swear to God, so many characters. Anyway, it doesn't matter. A girl comes in, and he's like, no, he's just asleep. And she's like, isn't that blood on the floor? And he's like, no, it's ketchup. She's like, I think it's blood. And he grabs a piece of pizza off the floor and dips it in the blood and eats it.
Oh, God, that was so gross.
It says, ketchup.
By the way, did you know, I don't know because it's not common in the States, but did you know that it's very common, at least in Asia, to put ketchup on your pizza?
No.
Pizza I order here is like, it comes with ketchup packets.
Yeah, ketchup's delicious on pizza.
Really?
Sometimes Alan and I make cheeseburger, like bacon cheeseburger pizza, and we just mix ketchup and mustard for the sauce.
That's good. Okay, yeah. Well.
Or just on a regular pizza, just like put a little bit of ketchup on top before you bake it, and then it caramelizes.
Now I think you're weird, but that's okay. You want to know a secret? You want to know a secret thing, though, just so to even things out? In Japan, it's common to put mayonnaise on pizza. Mayonnaise on pizza is also fucking delicious.
Really? I've not tried that. Like just smear it on
a slice? Like, they literally, like, have bottles for squirting mayonnaise on things. Like, they'll put mayonnaise on rice and things like that. It looks streaks,
Oh, yeah, I knew that.
But I found the best way is, like, mix it in with the cheese a little bit so you don't even really know it's there. But it adds this, like, tanginess to that cheesy layer.
Like before you bake it?
Well, that's what I do. That's not what they do in Japan. They literally just squirt it over it after the fact.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if you bake it, doesn't it just kind of turn into oil? Welcome to our cooking show.
I'm telling you, try it next time. Either squirt it over the top, which is also delicious, or do what I do and put it in and cook it with it. Either way, you get this really great kind of tangy flavor that is just awesome.
Is the mayonnaise in China the same as it is in America? Because one of the cooking ladies that I watch on Facebook always uses Kewpie mayonnaise.
Yeah,
I think that's Japanese.
It's Japanese, but yeah, it tastes different. But it's kind of like in America, you've got like mayonnaise and you have like Miracle Whip, right? They both have very distinct flavors. Uh-huh. I'd say Kewpie mayonnaise is a little closer to Miracle Whip, and that it's a little sweeter. Yeah.
That was fascinating. What were we talking about?
The blood and the pizza.
Ketchup.
He drags the body into a room. Then the girl comes in, and they hide the body in the closet. The Angelica comes in. She's freaking out. they get under the bed because 3 other people come in. It's a Mormon.
Yes, this is my favorite part of the whole movie.
This is
my
great.
favorite part of the movie.
Oh, it's fantastic. You're right. There's a Mormon missionary, Merrick. By the way, we do get introduced to everybody else sort of at the beginning because
everybody,
as Daniel and Angelica, I think, come into the party at the very beginning, Merrick kind of like gives them a tour and tells them a little bit about everybody. And this is where, by the way, having subtitles is really handy because you can just type it out. But he mentions, and this guy, he's just a Mormon missionary that showed up at my door and I invited to the party and his partner didn't want to come.
Yes.
But he ended up coming and Jacques is starting to go crazy as he gets more and more drunk. But he's also feeling guilty about it.
Somebody gives him, it's a beverage, somebody gives him like a bottle to drink from. And in my subtitles, it said, like it translated the bottle and it said that it was a hallucinogenic drink. Oh. I don't know what it was, but it said hallucinogenic, which makes sense because he hallucinates then throughout the rest of the movie.
Right.
Who does he get dragged in there by first? The twins, the slutty twins?
Yes, it's first the slutty twins. Yes, because they're the ones who are dancing on him. God, I wish, man, when I was in college, I wish I had slutty twins like this at a party. They just seem like a lot of fun.
Oh my God, they are so horny. They are the horniest girls that have ever lived. And they get this missionary in there and he's trying to resist, but these girls are not going to take no for an answer. The dead body and Philip are just like hiding on the corner. And the girl too, I think.
The girl, they're hiding underneath the bed for a minute. The body kind of falls out of the closet, but they don't really, they're like kind of look down like, oh, look, another person. I don't know. For a while, this body is kind of there out in the open, but I think either people just assume he's passed out or whatever, and they don't really.
What's so funny to me is that these girls just ravage this boy.
Oh, this poor boy.
They are taking turns on him. Like, it is nuts. And he had tried to resist and talk about, no, we believe that sex is for marriage only. And I don't know, but he is getting laid. Yeah. And it keeps happening. Yeah. That's what's so funny. Like, women, it's so stupid. Women just can't keep their hands off this guy in this movie. And he just keeps finding himself getting grabbed by gorgeous women and thrown on beds and ridden.
And so then he starts hallucinating Jesus.
And then Jesus is there for the rest of the movie, which I also thought was hilarious.
Oh, it was so great. Like at one point, so the girls leave. And he's feeling guilty. He sits down and kneels in front of the door and he prays to this crucifix. It might be another room by then. I can't remember. Anyway, he's praying to this crucifix that's hanging over the door. And at this point, the MILF jumps in. Now, this is another woman who's central to the plot. Her name was...
I love her. Gloria.
She was my favorite.
Yeah, at one point, she dances for a long time to... I don't know who it is. Is it Blondie? Gloria? But the song from the 80s, and it's great. It's a great dance song.
It's my song.
And yeah, so she's like the MILF who shows up with some guy, I don't know, whatever. But she makes it very clear from the very beginning in that introductory package. He's like, hey, this is my girlfriend. She's like, oh, no, I'm not his girlfriend. We're just friends. We've been hanging out or whatever. And she's insistent about it. But she is very attractive. She's probably what, our age?
Yeah, we're MILF age, aren't we?
Yeah. She's very beautiful, but she's also incredibly out of place in this. I mean, she doesn't act like it, and nobody else acts like it either. Like, she's just having a good time, and everybody's down.
There's a whole sequence at the beginning where it's like guy after guy are having these little mini conversations about her, which is making, her date there nervous because he is taking this relationship completely seriously. And she is absolutely like, no, this is just fun. And at one point, she has to take him out to the outside because he's pissed because she's just been in with somebody, but they haven't actually done anything. It's the Dumb and Dumber twins.
I know exactly where you're going. Right. Like the Dumb and Dumber guys, there are these two guys who are always trying to hook up with girls and do
the dorky guys trying to get laid.
Right. And like they want to have a threesome with her or whatever. And she just messes with them. She makes them like dry hump each other and stuff with the promise of hooking up with her. But she gets caught by her quote-unquote boyfriend, Powell, and he takes her outside so that he can profess his undying love. And then she gives what I thought was a very poignant and well-written monologue.
Yes! She just lays it out for him in the best way.
What are you so scared of? You think I'm in over my head, and if I end up getting hurt, you'll have yourself to blame?
Do you really think that with a 17-year age gap, you're the one most likely to get hurt? Right now, dating an older woman is fantastic. I'm the MILF that all your friends envy. Yes, the best sex of your life. That's because I have a lot more experience than those girls in there. 17 years, to be precise.
But that doesn't
You
matter.
brag about it, Pavel. Love isn't bragging.
I love and respect
That's
you.
sex.
I brag about us.
There is no us. You want to have kids?
Of course. Very much.
Wonderful. If we're lucky, in 9 months or so, we'll have a son who we'll name Chris. And we'll be one happy family, sleepless nights, changing, feeding, soothing him. But we'll survive. And 8 years from now, you'll hit your 30s, and I'll be past 50. My boobs will sag, and so will my ass. I'll find more wrinkles and gray hairs every single day. Not quite the MILF anymore. You get yourself a tasty little side piece named Kasia, who rocks your world. You travel for work all the time, your kid misses you all the time, and I cover for your filthy little lies all the time. My self-esteem goes out the window with my looks and my husband. When you do manage to come home, we fight constantly about every little thing. The kid hears it, he thinks I'm evil. He thinks I'm being mean to his perfect little daddy. Kasia never has to deal with any of the shit. She's always in a good mood. So you decide to go and live with her and take our kid along for the move because he thinks I'm a bad mother. And the blame for that will be all mine.
And only a woman of her age, and I speak as a man of her age, would understand. She is preaching. She is telling him the honest to God truth.
She was great. Yeah.
It's the same thing. Like, I'm no MILF, but if I were the equivalent of that and could pull like young hot guys and was single, I would know. Like, no, this isn't a relationship thing. Like, I'm old enough to be your dad. It may be fun for a little while, but it's not going to work out. And
here's why.
It's even more complicated, I think, in a heterosexual relationship, which she makes clear. And then you find out later that she's telling her own story. Basically, she just doesn't want a repeat of what her life has already been, which is, getting with a guy based on being good looking and, they're in love or whatever. And then she has a kid and then he finds somebody younger and cuter and less complicated and goes off with him and takes the kid and blah, blah, blah. Great monologue.
Yeah. When then later we find out that she's Philip's mom. That came out of nowhere.
That was the big reveal. I did not see that coming anywhere because Philip, who is the guy who's trying to cover up Merrick's body, he's also at this point accidentally killed Olivia too.
That's right. Because she just I
have no idea what. Like, he's just covering her mouth to keep her from screaming, to keep her quiet, and all of a sudden she starts seizing and foaming at the mouth.
And she pulls out like what I guess is like an EpiPen, right? But it kind of falls on the floor. And then he notices it later and tries to stab it into her, but it's too late. She's dead and he's crying. I thought this was...
Is she allergic to hands? I don't understand.
Maybe it's... I don't know. I don't know what all the different afflictions you can have if you're... What's the word? Epileptic or whatever. I don't know. I don't know how that stuff works, but... Yeah, good question. Anyway,
it's not epilepsy. That's not what EpiPens are for.
What is it? But there's a certain condition where you just get seizures sometimes, right? Like it can happen.
That's true.
If you're excited
there are lots
or
of
something.
seizure disorders, but EpiPens are for allergic reactions.
Are they only though? They're for other things
so.
too.
I don't know.
There's other.
Welcome
drugs.
to our medical podcast.
We were much better at cooking than we are at medicine, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So this guy, Philip, the photographer, has already killed her too. Not on purpose, but now there's a couple bodies laying around. And so he has to get out of the room that he's in. So he wears a bearskin rug for reasons I don't understand. Is he trying to be incognito?
I think so. I think it's the best thing he can think of to cover himself up so people can't see who he is.
He also doesn't have a shirt on. I thought maybe
he's trying to stay warm as well. Yeah, because he climbs out the window.
But people sitting down in the lawn think it's an actual bear because there are actual bear noises. What?
Yeah.
Why were there actual bear noises?
That's true.
I didn't understand that. But anyway, he sees Gloria having sex with somebody else.
No, it's
I don't even remember. The missionary.
In her frustration, she runs in the house and she's upset and then she's like, forget it. I'm just going to take control of the situation. She goes up, she opens the door, she sees the missionary who was praying to that crucifix, grabs him and starts banging him on the bed, starts riding him. And at that moment, the missionary looks up at the crucifix and Jesus winks at him.
Yes. He also has a talk with Jesus at some point where he says, like, I know that, you said we're not supposed to have sex, but I just had sex with these two girls and it was awesome. So I'm changing my philosophy.
Please just make me a sex machine.
I'm going to be a sex machine. A sex machine!
And it's like Jesus granted his prayer. It's hilarious.
Oh, it is so funny. And he's just this unassuming guy. Like, just an average guy. And these people can't keep their hands off of him.
Oh,
so much else is going on. Like, honestly, I feel like we are building to the end, which is fine. But if you're interested in this movie, you should watch it because there is so much. There's intrigue. This movie is cut so that you're just seeing like 2 or 3 minute scenes jumping from people to people to people to people to people, and like at some point, Anastasia confesses to her boyfriend that she cheated, and so he's mad at Philip, whatever his name is, and Rafal, who is Gloria's not boyfriend, is now mad at the missionary because he walks in on them banging, and Daniel and Angelica. Daniel has proposed to Angelica in front of everybody, and she has run away, and there's a whole scene where they're yelling at each other through a door and everybody's listening, and she talks about how the reason that she doesn't want to marry him.
A union can only be as strong as its weakest link. Our weakest link
is the sex!
What?
You're lousy in bed, Daniel! You absolutely suck! Newsflash! I'm bored to death having sex with you. It's
Honey?
always the same routine. 1, 2, 3 thrusts, and you're done!
Sweetheart?
It's like fucking deja vu! 1 position, maybe 2, and 0 imagination. I started doing a grocery list last time we had sex, but I didn't even finish that! There's nothing in it for
Let me in. Everyone out here can hear you.
Oh, good! Let them listen! Are you enjoying this? You getting off on it? Because that's more than I get! He can't even go down on me properly!
Angelica, I'm begging you.
Busy staring into my eyes, which, by the way, if they're open means I'm not coming!
You told me watching me turns you
I
on.
lied!
You've had 1,000 orgasms.
I have never come. I faked them all. Might as well say 1,000,000 orgasms because they never ever existed. Daniel, you're a nice boy, and you'll make a great man someday, but I need one now, right fucking now. And I'm sorry if this hurts your feelings, but I want to enjoy my pussy, not marry one.
yes.
Now, that's how it was translated for me.
Yeah, me
and
too.
And that was my favorite line.
Me too.
I want to enjoy my pussy, not marry one.
Oh, God, that was so funny.
And then he's all upset because she called him a pussy, and he's outside like, I'm not a pussy, I'll show her pussy, and he gets an axe.
So this was the point. Like, the camera pulls back, and you see the silhouette of him and the axe there, and he looks at it, and he picks it up. And this is when I'm thinking, okay, because, by the way, but at this point in the movie, I would have turned it off if I had not seen that opening sequence of everybody being dead, because I'm not really into this kind of drama type stuff anymore. To me, there are like 15 different movies, more than that, different movies like this. But because we know everyone's dying, I'm just waiting to see what's going to happen. And I was really thoroughly enjoying myself. When I see this guy pick up the axe, I'm like, aha, now we're going to get our first like premeditated murder.
But this guy, but he's such like
from the least likely person.
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, he just seems like a really sweet, nice guy. He's a good-looking guy, but he's not like,
he's like a boyish
hunk.
charm.
Yeah. He's small. He's short. Like, he's probably about the same height as his girlfriend, who also is, not a beauty queen. She's an attractive young lady, but she's not like a stunner.
She's the female equivalent. She's like girl next door, cute, kind of conservatively dressed, whatever. She doesn't seem like she's going to be one of these people running around banging everybody like half the other.
Right. If it weren't Polish, I would say they're an all-American couple.
Right.
They're just young, nice people. But you're right. So you wouldn't think that he would be the one, and he's not.
He's not. That's what's so great about the movie. It kept flipping things a little bit. And so I thought that was funny. He goes in with the axe, all Jack Nicholson style, and starts breaking down the door. He's axing through the door, gets a hold of the door. He jumps in. At the same moment, it's cutting between this and the fight that's happening in the bedroom upstairs, because it's Olivia. Jordan is now in there because he's pissed because Angelica was cheating on him. She had confessed to him that she was cheating. Angelica, by the way, has holed herself up because she's just kind of flipping out.
In the laundry room, yeah.
She's washing her clothes, and she's sitting on top of the laundry, the clothes washer, and something's happened with the clothes washer, and water's starting to come out of it, and it's starting to seep into the rest of the rooms downstairs, but nobody seems to be noticing.
And now I'm thinking, okay, now I see where this is headed. But yeah, but the fight upstairs is hilarious because it's just people just keep coming in. Like, It starts out with just 3 people. Rafal, is that his name? I don't know. Comes in because Gloria is writing the missionary, so he starts punching the missionary, but then Philip comes in through the window and starts punching Rafal and is like, dude, that's my mom. And this is the reveal.
Yeah.
You already said it before, but this is the first time that we find out that Gloria is Philippe's mom. So it's a very Stifler's mom kind of situation.
Exactly. And then Jordan comes in, and then he gets hit, and
he punches Philip because Philip is the guy that his girlfriend cheated on him with. But then Philip's mom, Gloria's like, hey, knock it off. And he punches her.
Yeah.
He thought that was hilarious.
Oh, my God.
He just decks her.
That fight kind of starts coming down the stairs. And then suddenly, where did the guns? Oh, because the twins have the guns.
The twins have had the guns the whole time.
That's right.
The twins have also been molesting everybody that crosses their path.
Yes.
There's one guy that has been tied up on a bed for basically the whole movie. That was one of the things, like, ultimately I liked this movie, but it kind of irritated me a little bit that they introduced us to all these characters, some of which are pretty inconsequential. Like that guy that ends up getting tied up on the bed, his name is Darius, and he's supposed to be the world's biggest womanizer. And there's a whole scene early on where some girl that he's hooked up with comes in and confronts him. And I thought that he was going to be a huge character, and you don't see him again until he's tied up and gagged on a bed, and he remains there the rest of the time. At some point, do those twins stick a hairbrush up his butt?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't notice that. What? I didn't notice that. Did I look away from the screen when that went down?
Yeah, they're like... something about he needs a poke, and one of them picks up, remember those hairbrushes that our sisters had in the 80s that were like a 360 round bristle
Oh,
that?
yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm sure women still use them. I don't know. No women live in my house. But one of them picks it up by the bristles and is just holding up the handle and says, "This'll work." And then the other twin grabs the handle and flips it over and says, "No, I think this way is better." And the guy's eyes get really big and then it just zooms in on him and he goes, "Mm."
Oh, geez. I did not remember that. Wow.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of hijinks going on. The big fight somehow ends up moving downstairs where just everybody starts fighting.
Well, the girl...
it's like accidental punches get thrown and things.
Accidental punches get thrown, but the party's still kind of around them. But what basically happens, I think, is one of the twins jumps on somebody who then...
Well, the twins come in... Oh, God, this is funny. The two guys that Gloria had made hump each other ever since then have had weird tension.
Yes.
Which felt very much to me like sexual tension.
Yeah.
Like, I thought those guys were going to hook up for sure. But the bigger one calls the little one gay or something, and so he runs off. He ends up finding Merritt's body, holds it in his arms, saying, "Oh, baby, baby." I don't know. Like, I don't know if they had a relationship or...
He's very distressed about this, yeah.
Yeah, and straight guys don't typically call each other guys baby, to my knowledge.
Not usually, no.
Whatever, anyway. So then he's like, "Who did this?" So he comes downstairs. All this craziness is going on. The twins walk in. One of them is spinning the gun on her finger. Oh. So he's like, "Gun. My boyfriend was shot in the head. It must have been her." So he picks up a baseball bat. He's got a baseball bat.
Yeah.
He came in swinging.
Oh, yes.
He's got a baseball bat. And he hits her with it and explodes one of her boobs.
Yeah, like,
it explodes.
It explodes one of her implants or something. It's like it gets red, and she says, "Oh my God, it's exploded. It's never going to go back." I can't remember.
But it's gross. It's not just like saline. No. It's like blood and flesh. Well, explodes. Yeah. Oh, it's disgusting. And then I don't know what happens from there.
Someone leaps on someone's back. I think she leaps on his back.
Yes,
he's spinning around.
The one with the gun. Yes.
And this is the only place where I was like, "Oh, come on." Well, I mean, relatively speaking, of course, because she starts shooting the gun as he's spinning around. And that's what ends up taking out at least 10 people.
A bunch. Yeah, a lot. But there's also still fighting going on.
There's no way that gun holds enough ammo for as many times as it goes off. But
absolutely not. And people are just getting shot right between the eyes. Like it's insanity. But there's also fighting is still going on. And I think Gloria ends up killing her son by accident. Like she tries to hit somebody else and she accidentally hits him.
Yeah. And then somebody goes to hit somebody else and hits the TV. And the TV falls down and just barely misses somebody else to get crushed. But then the TV falls into that water. So there's water all over the floor, basically all over the downstairs. And that's what more or less takes out everybody who by this point isn't already dead. But this scene is so funny because
it's ridiculous, but it's hilarious.
The music that is it Bon Jovi? I can't remember what's playing, what music is playing in the background, but it's some hard rock tune.
It's like hair rock, yeah.
Yeah, and everybody is convulsing to the beat of this song, including the random dude who wandered in earlier to pick up a guitar. He's still got the guitar in his hand, and so it looks like he's playing the guitar.
Yes,
and Philippe
is dead on the piano, but his fingers start twitching.
Oh my gosh, it was so funny. Oh. I thought
it's ridiculous, but it's so ridiculous that it works. And the other people, as they're being electrocuted, just look like dummies from the 80s who used to dance like that.
Yeah, dance like that, headbanging or whatever. It is so funny.
It is really funny.
Oh.
By this point, and you can tell, when that fight starts up in the bedroom... Oh, by the way, we forgot to mention that once, the pizza guy, this poor pizza guy's got all kinds of problems. His boss is calling him and yelling at him every 5 minutes. His mother with Alzheimer's is home alone and is burning her building down. Like, It's just a nightmare, and he eventually decides to hang himself, and he does. But also, when Daniel axed his way into the room, he didn't kill Angelica. They just had the wildest sex ever. And that was one of her complaints, was that he was fast and boring. And now they are porn star banging.
Yes, on everything in the room, in every position, while everybody else is dying.
And the climax of them dying is him pissing on her.
Yes.
This movie treats golden showers like they're a hot, sexy thing.
That was the payoff from an earlier line where somebody was mad at somebody else and screamed at him, I even let you give me a golden shower. And then she had looked at David and said, you were never giving me a golden shower. And he's like, I know.
But he does, and she likes it. Just like, and the way that it's shot, like it's shot between his legs. And like I said, we have seen so much sex before this, but they are naked, and he is like, you don't see his penis. That's the only thing that you don't see, but you just see him pissing on her face and tits. Like, what? When did I come to this movie?
I know, right?
I think I must have switched tabs on my computer.
Right.
Oh, jeez. But anyway, so everybody gets electrocuted except for this one girl who's been on Molly the whole time. I mean, you just see her dancing the whole time. She's the only one who's like, because she's dancing on a platform or something, and she doesn't even realize everybody's dead. Anastasia comes out. She was sitting on the dryer, so she was okay too. She comes out and she finds everybody dead. She sees the gun and she picks it up, and she hears something behind her, and so she immediately just turns and shoots and ends up shooting. That's right. The
David
couple.
And Anastasia, yeah.
Like, he's standing behind her, like he's got his arms draped over her shoulders, and she shoots through both of them.
It's like she shoots through their hearts. Did you notice that?
Yes. Stupid. And then I don't know. I don't remember what happens. What happens to her?
She slips and falls, and so because she ends up being the only person who actually survives this. She slips and falls and knocks her head, so she's like kind of paralyzed, I guess, but she's making groaning noises. And I think she's the one who in the very beginning we see getting pulled out of the wreckage.
No, she's dead. That's the Molly girl.
It's the Molly girl? Are you sure?
Yes, because she says, I promise I'll never do drugs again.
But Anastasia also did drugs, and she's the one who kind of set it all off.
I think it's the Molly girl, because I don't think we ever see the Molly girl die.
Well, she just kind of falls. I don't know. I thought maybe she was just dead from dehydration, because the whole...
Well, that could be.
Yeah. I thought it was her. Well, I'd have to go back and check to know for sure, but...
Who knows? Whatever. It doesn't matter. She trips and hits her head on a stair or a ledge or whatever. And then you get a voiceover.
Yes.
Now, first of all, music starts playing, and it's The House of the Rising Sun, which is a great song and really well suited to the tone of this ending. But you get this voiceover, which I only wrote the first part down because maybe if you have time, you'll put it in. I don't know. But it's chemistry is the study of matter. And you come to find out that this is the suicide note of the pizza guy that he has written on toilet paper before he hangs himself in the bathroom. And he just talks about how everything is interrelated, and
some things repel each other, some things don't.
Are attracted to each other.
So
right.
He's clearly like he's a chemist. He's like a closet chemist, or he's like studying chemistry or something.
But it also is all applicable to the events, like...
Yes, it's like a commentary on what just happened.
Everything's connected. And he says... he got kicked out of school or something, but I did stumble across the cure for Alzheimer's, so hopefully at least that will be my legacy.
Benefit to humanity. I'm leaving it right here, and you can see on the note that he's written these chemical formulas or something.
Yeah. And then it goes back to the cops, and they're like they're like, well, he's obviously a delivery guy. Who knows what happened? No sign of a suicide note, so I guess we'll never know. That was the toilet paper that the one cop had given to the other to wipe his mouth off after he barfed in the beginning.
Yeah, so we've lost the cure for Alzheimer's.
It's gone. Yeah, it's gone. And then... like, okay, the movie's over, but no, it isn't. Because then we attend Angelica and Daniel's wedding in heaven. If you're not keeping up with these names, the people that we described as the All-Americans, the dirty sexers. Now we're at their wedding in heaven, except I don't think it's supposed to be heaven.
Yeah, it's perhaps. I mean, you could read it however you want, because thematically it's all the same. But this is sort of an alternate reality where they did get married and everybody else kind of got along, and like all of these relationships that were in turmoil were resolved in different ways.
Yeah, Gloria catches the bouquet and reunites with Powell, and Philip takes their picture like he's cool with it, and Merritt and Rafal, the two guys, make out. The only ones that don't work out are Anastasia and Jordan. She's still bored with him. So instead, she pairs up with the pizza guy, and she's like, wait a second, aren't you that guy that cured Alzheimer's? He's like, yeah, that was me. And so she takes him back to the same library that she had taken Philippe to before, and we don't see this, we just hear it. She's like, hey, what's this weird key? And then you hear a gunshot again, and then it goes to credits.
Yeah.
Like, so like even in the alternate world, she's still a dummy.
Or even in the alternate world, things are still fated to turn out the same way. It's weird, but, I think it all kind of thematic. This is what I thought was so clever, but one of the things I thought was so clever about the writing was just how it all wrapped up and how it actually had a theme to it, It had this idea, because they talk about star signs and they talk about who's aligned and who's not. And, the girl saying the stars are aligned. I think the whole concept here is that all these people at this party were sort of cosmically fated to this. But then this alternate reality shows, well, what if it was different? What if, everybody did kind of get along? And then that kind of zinger at the end says, even so, they're still fated to this end. I don't know. It's just something to think about. It's kind of this notion bounced back and forth. That just a cute way, I thought, to wrap up the movie. That kind of hangs over the whole movie. I just thought it was so clever. The writing was so smart.
I liked it because it made it a little less gloomy.
Yeah,
because
that too.
Those characters, I actually liked them. and I knew they were going to all end up dead. I knew that going in, but I actually came to like them, so it was kind of nice to see that at the end. I don't know if you know this or not. We may have talked about it for all I know, but that's how Heathers was supposed to end too.
Oh, really?
After the end and everybody was dead, there was supposed to be a scene in heaven with all of the people who had died.
Oh.
To show that they were all in heaven, and they ultimately, I don't remember if they filmed it or not, but it was definitely scripted, and they ended up not doing it and just leaving it bleak. And you could have left this bleak, but, and Heathers is a comedy too, but this is a comedy, and I would rather walk away from it feeling light.
Yeah.
As opposed to heavy.
It was proper. I think it was fitting for the tone of the movie. The whole movie is not meant to be taken seriously. These horrible things are happening. It's nice to have this ending that's a little more uplifting and upbeat. It just rounded out the experience for me and made me enjoy the movie that much more. I don't get me wrong, and we've talked about this millions of times on the podcast before. Bleak endings are great.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they're fitting, and sometimes it's annoying when there should be a bleak ending and there's something happy tacked on.
Agreed.
It kind of reminded me, do you remember Very Bad Things? Did you ever see that?
Mm-mm.
I
don't think so.
Cameron Diaz, Daniel Stern, a whole bunch of stars in it. It was a 90s movie that I think a lot of people have forgotten about because it was just the darkest comedy you'll ever see. Like horrible, horrible things are happening that are being made light of, and that's how dark comedy works. But at the end of it, you just leave like, oh my God, I need to take a shower. Like, it's fine. I don't want to be too critical of it, but my God, like if this movie had ended how Very Bad Things was ending, and that's the direction I thought it was going, I know I would have left here just emotionally a little shaken. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, like we just said, the balance was just perfect. And not only that, but it spoke to the theme that he was going for with the film, which I thought was just supremely clever.
Yeah, I thought it was. Ultimately, I walked away from it really satisfied. Yeah, I said earlier it's American Pie, and I think I said that largely because of the hot mom character, and also because it's raunchy. But as far as like structure goes, it's also a lot like that 2000s teen movie Can't Hardly Wait, where it's a bunch of different characters at a party and interacting at a party. Gosh, it's New Year's Eve. There's a New Year's Eve countdown. Like the big finale basically starts at midnight on New Year's. I really enjoyed it. Again, like I said before, it felt a little tedious in the beginning, but I really think that was just because I was working.
Yeah.
Like if you're just watching it for fun, I don't think it'll bother you so much.
No.
And the payoff is fun. Ultimately, I thought it was a really fun movie. I know you watched the subtitled one. Good for you, smarty pants. But the dub is quite good. It's not off-putting. It doesn't pull you out. So if you prefer a dub, it's perfectly fine. And really, I think this is my favorite one that we watched of the holiday season. It was a lot of fun.
It was the most fun of the ones we watched. I mean, without being just totally bonkers out there. I think my second favorite was definitely the Crazy Killer Samurai movie. But that's because it was bonkers and a little inept.
Right.
This one was just a clever, fun, great movie. I mean, it's horror, but most of it's drama, comedy. It's just kind of all there.
But it is bloody.
Oh, it's gory and bloody.
And violent.
And it's also fitting for the year. We don't know what's going to happen with the new year, and things may seem bleak and stuff, but maybe everything will turn out okay. And we got to have hope, and this movie does end on a hopeful kind of note in its own way. It's nice. It's a good thing to do for 2024.
Yeah. And again, I'm going to just jump on the optimism wagon. I know that a lot of people have had a lot of struggles. I know that there's a lot of conflict in the world, but I've had a pretty good year. My friends and family are healthy, and I'm surrounded by people I love. I've got great friends. I've got people all over the world writing to us, saying really nice things. It's been a good year for me, and I hope it has been for all of you. And whether it has been or not, I hope that 2024 is even better, and I think it can be.
My job has been good and stable, and I'm here with family and friends right now. We're all able to get together for the first time in a very long time that my sisters and I have been in the same room. I mean, it's been at least a decade. And we are all able to get together with my parents for the holidays. So I'm going out on 2023 on a great note. 2023 itself has been really positive for me. So I just want to say, put it out there, though, that I also feel optimistic personally.
It's going to be a big year.
Whew, what a time it's going to be. So it's going to be an exciting year, if nothing else. And I'm really anxious for it. And because I'm a positive, optimistic dude, I'm going to be optimistic, and I'm going to send my positive energy out there to hope that has some effect. And I encourage you guys to do the same.
Yeah, and we'll keep trying to bring positivity here too. So
yes, this is our refuge. We don't want to be a space of negativity. This is our refuge. This is the moment during the week when we can just sit back and laugh and have a good time no matter what's happening, and enjoy each other's company. And so we're going to make sure the show stays that way as well. Well, thank you so much for all of your messages that you've been sending us. We will get back to those. We can't wait to see what the new year brings with new listeners and new feedback from you guys. Please go to our website, chainsawhorror.com. Any one of our social media channels are linked to from there. You can just Google Two Guys and Chainsaw Podcast. Leave us a note. Let us know what you're planning for 2024, your outlook on everything, the movies that you would like us to see doing in this next year. We've got a theme month coming up in February that was chosen by our patrons that we're very excited about. Patreon.com/Chainsaw Podcast if you're interested in getting in in on that action. On our website, there's a link for you to leave us a voice message. And next week, we're going to be looking at another voice message. We just love hearing your voices as much as your text, and we do listen to and respond to every single one of those. So thank you guys so much for your support over these years and for the year to come. Until next time, I'm Todd.
And I'm Craig.
With 2 guys and a chainsaw.